What engine you running? What turbos are on that thing? What cam you got in there? How fast is it? What rear end you got in that thing? What transmission you running? Where'd you get your turbo kit? What kind of dash is that? Is that a gate shifter? You still got the stock interior in that thing? These are only some of the questions I get asked on a weekly basis. So today we're going to do a video. I'm going to cover chaos theory from front to back and try to answer all these questions and more. Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel. This video is probably long overdue, and the fact of the matter is, usually when people ask me questions, I say, look, we've got playlists on this channel that cover every car we've built on this channel from the very beginning, everything we've done to them, it's all on video. But there are some people who, for whatever reason, don't want to go back, watch the videos. That's fine. We're going to kind of try to touch on some stuff today, at least with chaos theory here, and if this video does well, I may do another video on the DR Nova, possibly the China Vet as well, and kind of just go front to back and tell you everything that we've done to this car to date. Now that being said, we are coming up on the end of 2022, and in January we do have plans to start making some major upgrades to this car, so things are going to change. All I can tell you is, until I make another one of these videos, guys, if you want to know about this car, click on that little playlist tab on the channel. Look for the Chaos Theory Camaro build. Everything's in there. But if you want to know what's done to this car up till this point, here we go. I'm going to tell you the parts that are on the car. Once again, if you want to see specific videos of how those parts were installed, check out the playlist, guys. Everything's there. I don't use clickbait titles, so it's really easy to look stuff up on my channel and, you know, find what you're looking for specifically. I think we're going to start with the fuel system, and I'm just going to cover everything, and hopefully I don't miss anything that you guys have asked questions on. So we're running dash 10 PTFE feed. This is from Faster. All of our fittings, all of our fuel hoses came from them. They're running into our Holley rails that came with our high ram intake here. We're regulating it with a fake Aeromotive fuel pressure regulator. You can see it even has the Aeromotive little Aeromotive logo on it, but we got this guy on eBay for like 35 bucks. It comes with two different springs, one to do carb, low fuel pressure, and one to do higher pressure for EFI. We are running Snake Eater 1500cc injectors. We've got just a basic Continental Flex fuel sensor here. We're using a Motion Raceworks Flex sensor manifold. I don't know what you call it. It's the little bypass guy here that allows you to run it on the feed line without restricting flow. So working our way to the back, in the stock fuel filter location underneath the car here, we have one of those big massive fuel filters from Shipbox Supply. Inside the car, it all looks stock, but we have a trap door here. Yes, we did all that on video. In our stock fuel tank, we have an Aeromotive fuel sending unit that has an Aeromotive 340 pump. Now, that pump is acting as a pull-up pump to our surge tank, which is over here in our glove box. So if you look down in here, you will see our Radium triple tank surge tank here. We've got 3 Walbro 450s in this surge tank. They are triggered independently. The primary pump runs all the time. The secondary pumps come on at 6 psi. The Holley actually turns them on and off. So we're not running all 3 pumps at the same time. But all the time, the 340 pull-up pump is running. It puts fuel into our surge tank here. And then a single 450 is running all the time in the surge tank to pump the fuel to the front of the car. When boost comes on, I believe I have it set at around either 5 or 6 psi. It's just a couple psi above gate pressure. Then it'll activate the other pumps in here. So that brings us over here to our other side, where after removing the cover, you can see we have our battery relocated back here, and right above that we have a fuse and relay panel. Got all the fuses here. We've got all the relays for the 3 pumps that are in our surge tank across the top row here. And then we have a separate relay over here for our main pump. The only reason I have not added that into here is because I had that wired before we did all this. Eventually we will incorporate that in here. We also have a relay and fuse for our Intercooler here. And this used to be the relay for our nitrous heater when this car was on nitrous. Obviously we no longer have that in here, and the plan is to actually move this relay over to this spot. You can see our wires. We've got the wires that go to the front, we got grounds, all that's hooked up. We've got our kill switch back here to shut the power on and off to the car in case, God forbid, something happens and we roll the car or something, you know, so somebody can come up and shut that off for us. Go ahead and close our trunk. And while we're back here, we will go underneath the car. So we have our Intercooler mounted back here. This is a Durale, whatever, Intercooler. We have it mounted here right at the back of the car. It gets plenty of airflow. It also has a cooling fan. We don't have any heat issues with our transmission, guys, at least not yet. So moving forward, you can see we've got the whole host of UMI goodies under here. We've got a UMI adjustable anti-roll bar that lets us adjust from side to side so the car goes straight even when the wheels are off the ground. Of course, we've got the track bar, all that jazz. And we've got our trick chassis fabricated 9-inch under here. We're running a full spool in here, 370 gear ratio, and just their standard disc brake kit for the back here. We also have UMI adjustable lower control arms, and you can see our 9-inch has multiple locations to allow us to change the angle of our LCAs back here to give more or less anti-squat. I have them all the way on the bottom setting. We run a 15 by 10 wheel in the back with a 5.5-inch back space. And as you can see, it tucks nicely inside the wheel well there. So if we do lower the car in the future, the tires should go right up in there. Currently, we have our spare street, I call them street wheels. This is our extra set of wheels that, you know, just have regular 275, 60 street tires on them. And it is important to note that our rear end has been narrowed a 1/2 inch on each side. In my opinion, the optimum backspace on a 15 by 10 wheel on a 3rd gen is 6 inches with 0 offset. Well, these are 5.5 inch with 0 offset. So when I had my new rear end built, I decided to just go ahead and have them narrow it a 1/2 inch on each side. I covered that in the install video, and that way it allows me to run the cheaper wheels that only come in 0.5 sizes. So effectively it gives me, you know, it puts the wheel in the same spot as it would if I had a factory width rear end with a 6.0 backspace on it. I've already said we're still running the stock fuel tank. I chose to do that and run the surge tank instead of doing a fuel cell, just because, guys, I drive this thing and I enjoy driving it, and I didn't want to have to worry about a fuel cell in the back of the car or anything, or have to put too small of a fuel cell. I wanted to maintain my full capacity for fuel. Now, working my way forward, you'll see we also have a UMI adjustable torque arm. And if you look all the way up there, you can see we've got UMI subframe connectors. We also have a UMI cross member. The torque arm is the style that mounts to the cross member up there. Now, our UMI cross member actually came with a drive shaft hoop. You can see I've got husky hair all over it. We had some fitment issues, guys. We could not get this thing to fit right. It was hitting the drive shaft. So I cut it off for now, and the plan is Brad and I are going to go back under there, and we're going to adjust this and re-weld it at some point. That might be something we do while we have the car over at his house doing the cage. That brings me to the drive shaft. We are running a 3.5 inch aluminum drive shaft from PST. I think it's Performance Shaft Technologies. They're out of Clearwater, Florida, I believe. This drive shaft also has solid 1450 U-joints, and they rate it at 1200 plus horsepower, which we do plan to test that hopefully within the next year. So moving on up, and I'm sorry guys, I don't have the car jacked up, so it's kind of hard for me to show you this, but we do have a built Turbo 400 from Wheels Up Racing in Illinois. You can see the big pan on there and everything, and it is running a billet aluminum valve body with a 1+2 trans brake, so that allows me to leave in either first or second gear. I am not sure of all the modifications that have been done to this transmission, but he claims it'll hold up to 1500 horsepower. I know it's got upgraded input shaft, upgraded like billet hubs or something. I don't know, guys. I'm not a transmission guy. I just know he built it. I told him I wanted it to hold at least 1200 horsepower, and he said it's good for 1500. So working our way up from there, we're currently running a JEGS XHD 3200 stall converter, and those guys are rated to 800 horsepower. I hope that's wheel horsepower, because I'm pretty sure we're already exceeding that at the crank. Right here you can kind of get another shot of the subframe connector over here from UMI, and a little bit better shot of the adjustable control arms. We are using all the Heim joints on all of our suspension in the rear, and that kind of brings me to suspension. So currently, and this is what's killing us at the track, guys, we're just running a set of Gabriel stock replacement shocks in the back, stock V6 springs up front. We still have the stock I think this thing had 104,000 miles on it when we bought it 3 years ago. But yeah, we still have the factory original struts and springs on the front of this thing, V6 springs. So when you see the videos and the front end's just coming up and it's pulling the wheels off the ground, it's because the front end's coming up way too fast, because these struts have been blown out for years. And that's one of the big upgrades that, you know, we're planning on doing before this car gets back to the track this year, is coilovers front and back, so we can get some adjustment in there. Now, moving on to the interior. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we currently have the full stock interior in this car. This car is not gutted. Everything's as it should be. We're running the Holley Pro Dash. We're still running the factory airbag steering wheel, even though the airbag's not hooked up. I just like having it in here, guys. I like the look of it. I like how everything just looks so stock in this car. When I'm driving it around on the street, I forget what kind of power it's making, honestly. So in order to accomplish that, I mounted buttons on the steering wheel. I made the little brackets here, wired everything up, so we don't have any cords hanging down or anything. Everything runs through the steering column. We've got our trans brake button, and then over here is our bump, and that doubles as a scramble button. We do not have AC, but we still have the factory heat. That works. We've covered that in videos and covered why I decided to keep that. I did do a upgrade and got some cup holders here, you know, for those long drives, or when you're sitting in the staging lanes and you're just really freaking thirsty, so you can have you a bottle of water in here without having to reach in the floorboard. Still have the stereo, still have all the factory speakers in it, guys. Our shifter is a B&M Mega Shifter. I know some guys don't like these. I love them. The only thing I don't like about them really is the T-handle that comes on them. So I've used probably 12 of these shifters in different cars over the years, and the first thing I always do to them is I get rid of that T-handle and I put a little ball on it. I like the way that ball feels better. I like the way it looks better. Although I'm thinking I might swap it out for a black one. We're actually talking about possibly getting an air actuated shifter in this car though, so I don't know that I'll do any more modifications to this shifter. But with the exception of the air conditioning, everything in the car is still fully functional. We still have the back seats. Those may be going away when we do the roll cage. I haven't decided yet, but that's pretty much it for the inside. There's nothing really to show you guys. I mean, it's stock interior, stock seats, Everything's stock. Just needs to be cleaned a little bit. Moving on to one of my favorite questions. Hey man, when you gonna put a hood on that thing? I don't know how you guys have missed it, but we've had a hood on this car pretty much the whole time. I do take it off at the track sometimes, but the hood is on whenever we're cruising the car around on the street, with a few exceptions. If we're doing some little tuning changes or something and I want quick access to the engine, we leave it off. But yes, we do have a hood. I decided to go with a pin-on style hood instead of a hinged hood, just for the simple fact it gives you easier access all around the car. It's kind of a pain in the butt for me to put it on by myself, but I can lift it off by myself and put it on top of the car. I always throw down this little moving blanket. It usually stays in the very back of the car, just so I don't totally scratch the roof of the car up. But so to mount the hood, we used Motion Raceworks DeZeus rails, or DeZeus, or however you want to say it, but they're the Motion Raceworks rails. So we've got those fasteners all down the sides. I didn't like that the front would get kind of floppy because these headlight buckets, they do catch air, and it was kind of lifting the hood, and I could look under the cowl at night and I could see the hood lifting in the front. So I've actually been on Motion Raceworks' ass to make some brackets to go on the front of the 3rd gens, because they make them for several other cars, Fox body Mustangs, 4th gen Camaros. To this day, they still don't make them. So I said, screw it, and I just threw 2 hood pins up here in the front just to kind of hold the hood down. But we do have a hood, guys. That's the point. We've got a hood. The hood's usually on the car. I just take it off the track sometimes if it's really hot out, especially, you know, to get the turbos more air. So I guess with that being said, that'll bring us into the next question: which turbos am I running? Now, we have a set of VS Racing mirror image 6762s sitting over here that will go on the car at some point. We also have a set of VS Racing's new Gen 3 piston actuated wastegates that will go on the car at some point. But for now, here's what we're running. We've got a set of billet wheel GT3582s. These are a little bit bigger than the bottom of the line GT3582s that you get from, say, Max Speeding Rods or someplace like that. These have the larger billet wheels that are actually 64 millimeter. So where your standard GT3582s are technically 6162s, these are 6462s. So they've got a 64 millimeter wheel on the cold side, and you know, a 62 millimeter wheel on the hot side. So far I've been impressed with them, guys. They've been on the car for what, a year and a half, going on 2 years, and they haven't let me down yet. Where did I get the turbo kit? Well, we actually did a 3-video series in the Chaos Theory playlist where we built this turbo kit from scratch. Basically, what this consists of is a set of eBay stainless up and forward headers. We bought an eBay exhaust kit with 3-inch stainless pipe, and that's what we used to build the hot side and to modify all this. I bought a couple U-bends of this, what is it, 2-inch? It's either 2 or 2 1/4, whatever 50 millimeter is. But I bought 2 U-bends of stainless steel off eBay to do our wastegates with. We've got 50 millimeter Speed Daddy wastegates, and obviously everything I'm pointing to, you know, there's a mirror of it on the other side here. This particular wastegate here has leaked from day one and given us all kinds of boost issues. But, you know, it's got us this far. I mean, the car's running 5s with a leaking ass wastegate. So for $50 a wastegate, I'm not complaining. Although I am hoping the new VS piston wastegates are going to help us get the boost control, well, under control. As for the cold side, we just bought a 2.5-inch eBay intercooler kit. You know, that just comes, it doesn't come with the intercooler, it comes with all the piping. We bought a 2-in, 1-out intercooler with a, I think it's a 3.5 or 4-inch thick core. So the pipes come in from either side and go out the top into a single 3-inch. And then underneath there, you'll see our Speed Daddy 50mm blow-off valve. How much boost is it pushing? So there's another question I get asked. The most boost we have made with this setup is 26 pounds. And that was by accident, so those were just spikes. That was not maintained. The most boost we have maintained with this setup is right around 20 pounds. And I say right around because the boost was oscillating really bad because of the boost control. It was actually oscillating between 12 and 20 pounds up and down. And that was on our fastest pass, which was a 584 at 119.7, as it was almost 120 mile per hour in the eighth, not in the quarter. So yeah, fastest pass, somebody asked that. Fastest pass with this car so far was a 584 at, I'm just going to say 120 because it was, you know, round up, at 120 mile per hour. So that brings us to power. If you input our mile per hour in the eighth, which was 120 mile per hour, and put it in the little calculator online with the weight of the car, that gives us 906 horsepower. Obviously, that's at the crank. So on that pass, I'm estimating it was putting down somewhere between 750 to 800 at the wheels. No, we have not had the car on the dyno. Honestly, with the current setup, it will probably not go to the dyno. Once we get our new aluminum engine built and get our bigger turbos put on and all that jazz, we may take it to the dyno, because at that point we're going to be shooting for 1200. Somewhere, you know, 11 to 1200. I would be happy with anything in that range. But anyway, I have people ask several times a week about our Alloy Works radiator. We are still running that Alloy Works radiator, guys. It is the radiator for a 84 through 91 Corvette. We use the smaller radiator because that allowed me to move it forward and tuck it under the core support here to give me more clearance for the turbos. No problems with the radiator. The radiator holds temp great. The fans leave a little bit to be desired. Although they do manage to keep the engine temp where it needs to be, the fans are very loud, and I feel like as loud as they are, they should be moving a lot more air. So in the future, we're probably going to move this we're probably going to cut this out, move the radiator down and forward even more to make room for a totally different setup with the new turbos. When we do that, I'm probably going to get rid of these fans. I'm going to keep the radiator. Again, it works wonderful, but we're probably going to switch to some different fans. Now, in case you guys can't tell, I'm kind of just working my way to the engine. Brakes are stock up front, stock brakes. Rear brakes are identical to the front brakes. They're actually the kit that Quick Performance and Trick Chassis sells. They're, you know, base 9-inch kit. I believe it's actually just a set of stock GM front calipers that come on cars like this, or G bodies, or S10s, or whatever. So basically, we're running a square brake setup. So we got the same, you know, stock brakes in the front and that same stock brake in the back. So far, it's had no trouble stopping the car, guys. I've been pretty happy with the brakes. The only time I have experienced any brake fade is not the last time we went to the track, but the time before, and we hot lapped the car like 4 times in a row. And on that 4th pass, my brake pedal was almost to the floor at the end of that pass, and that was a 118 mile per hour pass, I think. But I had run like 215 mile per hour passes, and I was just, there was nobody there at the track. So I was literally making a pass, going straight back to the staging lanes, waiting like 5 minutes, and then, you know, making another pass. So I overheated the brakes then. But as long as I give, you know, the car 10, 15, 20 minutes to cool down between passes, no problem with these brakes so far. They will get upgraded in the future as the car gets faster and faster. That would be stupid of me not to do. Now, boost control, currently we're running a 4-port Mac valve, and I have just been totally bullheaded with this, guys. I know I should do onboard air or CO2 boost control. Either one of those two would help me straighten out my boost control issues, but I'm just being bullheaded, and I'm dead set on making this 4-port like controllable. So you're probably going to see me messing with this 4-port for a little while longer, but eventually the car will get either onboard air or CO2. I'm leaning more toward onboard air for several reasons that I won't discuss in this video. Now, moving right along, obviously we've got a Holley high ram intake, and we've just got your classic 102 millimeter eBay throttle body. Cost us $65. Now, I do want to say this about these eBay throttle bodies. Everybody complains about them whistling. People will tell you you have to drill out the IEC passage and you have to do this and that to them. My experience, I've used 2 of these now. My experience with these is if you get your idle parameters set correctly, where this IEC is only at around 5 to 10% at idle, it don't whistle. What causes it to whistle is usually when your IEC is running wild and it's at like 100% or 90% or something, and the air moving across that passage gives you that whistling noise. I didn't grind anything. I didn't modify anything. All I did was dial in my IEC. You know, got this adjusted to where my IEC was, you know, between 5 and 10%. I think mine, usually once it's warmed up, it's around 6 or 7%. Once I got that taken care of, guys, no more whistle. Done. All right. So if you've tried all the tricks and your shit's still whistling, it's probably your tune that's causing it to whistle. Keep that in mind. Now, here we go, guys. My favorite part, the moment of truth. What engine is in this car? All right, guys. This is the exact same 5.3 with over 300, well, right under 350,000 miles that you guys saw me put in this car 3 years ago. The only thing we did to this engine, what I always do, I check my main and rod bearings. Main bearings look good. Rod bearings looked a little sus. I bought a $25 set of rod bearings from the auto parts store. We put those in. I had to replace one valve cover gasket because whoever forklifted this thing out of the junkyard had actually hit this valve cover, bent one of the bolts, and ripped the valve cover gasket. So I bought a valve cover gasket. That was pretty much it, guys. We ended up sticking this thing in bone stock at first. Then we threw nitrous at it. Then we put the cam in it. What cam am I running? I am running your classic sloppy stage 2 cam. That's what everybody calls it. It's the Elgin 1840P cam. We're running that with the 350,000 mile lifters that were in here. We cleaned them, we soaked them, cleaned them, blew them out, stuck them back in. The stock push rods, stock rocker arms, stock trunnions. Literally the only thing that has been done to this engine is rod bearings and the cam and the valve springs. We're running packed 12-18 springs. So that's it, guys. We're running mid to high fives in this car on a 350,000 mile 5.3, and internally the only thing I replaced was the rod bearings, the cam, and the springs. That's it. No high dollar engine in this girl yet. Everything else at this point, we've replaced the transmission. We got a high dollar transmission now. We've replaced the rear end. It's pretty high dollar. We are still on our original high mileage 5.3, and it has just taken every bit of abuse that we've thrown at it. Oh, rings too. Once again, you guys can go back and watch the videos, guys. I did all this on video. We tore this motor down. We put it back together. I pulled the heads off of it. I was going to re-gap the rings to open them up, but this engine had so many miles on it that the rings had actually mileage gapped, and we ended up with like 28 thousandths to 30 thousandths gap on all the rings, and I only wanted 26. But they were already opened up so far. That's what we ended up with. Then we reused those 350,000 mile head gaskets. I just copper sealed them. Again, you don't have to take my word for it. It's all on video. We put those copper sealed head gaskets back in. We reused the stock head bolts and torqued them back down to factory specs. And we're going on Well, we've had the car for 3 years. This motor's been in it about, what, 2.5 years. So we're going on 2.5 years of beating the shit out of this thing, and this engine's still going strong. Currently, we have done no real modifications to make the car any lighter, other than the hood. Obviously, this hood is way lighter than the big-ass steel hood that comes on these cars. But other than that, I mean, you guys have seen, it's a full weight. It's a street car, guys. Full weight, full interior. Nothing's really been done to lighten this thing up yet. We do plan on putting our aluminum 5.3 in here. Once we get it built, that's going to knock about 80 pounds off the nose of the car. But we've got our S&W 8-point roll bar. Some people call it a cage, but it does not have the halo or anything like a 10-point. So I believe the correct terminology is roll bar. That's going to add that 80 pounds right back to the car. But, you know, that 80 pounds is going to be more center mass of the car instead of being, you know, right up here on the nose. So we will be doing that. That's going to lighten it up a little bit. But other than that, yeah, full weight car. I have no plans to gut this car. I like it the way it is, guys. It's comfortable. I can cruise in it. We do have fender exit exhaust on both sides, as you can see, which is probably really annoying for the people I'm driving next to. But I'll just be honest with you, if you're in the car with the windows up, it's really not that much louder than our Corvette, the China Vet out there. As a matter of fact, you know, this thing's got shitty stock speakers in it with aftermarket radio, and I can hear the radio just fine, you know, just at mild volume cruising down the road. So the only thing that makes the car any less street friendly is the full spool that we have, which one day I hope to get a wave track in that rear end, and the fact that we do not have power steering. And manual steering's not bad, guys, but a power steering box that has been looped is horrible. It's really hard to steer. So I've been going back and forth, and I even said, I think in the last video or the one before, I was going to put power steering back on this car. I almost forgot one of the most important things. We are running a Holley HP ECU in this. We are not running a Terminator X or a Terminator X Plus or a Dominator. We are running the Holley HP. So I don't know how the heck I forgot to tell you guys that, but that's the engine management system we're running. I'm pretty happy with it. I think I've got some harness issues, connection issues that's causing us a few issues with like our fuel pressure sensor, stuff like that. But yeah, but that's it, guys. That's CC front to back. I think I've covered everything. If you've got any more questions, feel free to leave them in the comments there. But the most important thing is, remember, and I can't keep stressing this enough, everything that's been done to this car was done 100% on video. So most of your questions can be answered just by watching the video. So hopefully this video answered most of your questions. If not, like I said, drop your questions in the comment section down there. I'll try to answer them as best I can. Keep in mind, once again, guys, I'm doing this video at the end of 2022. So if you're watching this video years from now, a lot's going to have changed. Best thing I can tell you, check out the playlist. Maybe I made another video like this later on. But thanks once again for watching. Now get out in the garage, get something done, and I'll see you next time here on Bad Luck Garage.